Fresh and
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fresh and Buds. I am your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all of my buds, and I am joined once again by an amazing bud of mine, Mr. Isaac Jessen from the Attack Action Podcast. You know him as Battle Bro Isaac. You know him as the Prince of Precision. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's really good to see you again, Tommy. But we've been playing on the side some lately, so it hasn't really been that long at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll get to it a little bit later, but we got to test together, and it's been a lot of fun. You're getting ready for Worlds this week, and we're going to talk a lot about Worlds and kind of give you a preview for the huge tournament that's happening in San Jose, and basically Isaac's takes on what's going to be going on at the tournament. But before we get to all that, I want to shout out to the Patreon, which you can find in the show notes in the link tree, which helps keep the lights on and the mics hot. And it is a great way to help support the show. You get access to bonus apps. You get access to custom stickers and a membership to the Romping Club, which is a pretty cool Discord channel in the Buds Discord where you can hang out with some other patrons, and you get a membership card in the mail, which is pretty cool. So yeah, check that out. It helps, but obviously not required. And I also want to continue to shout out the Bud Rush Bellow, a live podcast that we do 9:30 Eastern on Wednesdays. A lot of fun. I do that with Gary, aka Mr. Viz, the waifu Viscerai pillow guy. And we have tons of fun there. And you guys can always come on over and hang out in the chat. It's a lot of fun. And finally, I want to shout out our producer, Greg. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing really good, Tommy. I'm just sharpening my ravenous meat axe over here, so don't mind me.
Sounds good. But we're going to get to the main show with my man Isaac here. We haven't been on this podcast in a hot minute. It's been a while, a couple months, or not even more than a couple months. But I was blessed to join you and Taylor on your podcast a little bit after Uprising, and it was a blast. And I just love chatting with you guys. You guys have become really good friends of mine at this point, and I want to see what's new with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this game's all about, right? Like the best parts. Like no matter how cranky I get about the game, or this meta sucks, or I'm sick of Starvo, or whatever. It's just like it's always so positive because of making friends with you, making friends with everybody, and like the trips where you get to see everybody and all of that. It's really, really great. Life's great. I'm trying to, I guess, create my career instead of like taking a job or working a job I don't like or something. So that has its, challenges and rewards, and that's going pretty well. But I'll get back to you in like a year or something and see where I'm at, and hopefully it'll just be like awesome and rolling in money and purpose and all that good stuff.
I mean, unfortunately, I've found that money and purpose rarely coincide, but I hope for your sake that it does. But that's good. I mean, I feel that, and it can be tough doing that and playing a game and doing a podcast all at the same time. So how are you balancing the podcast, getting ready for Worlds, and life things?
Every time I get really busy, I mean, as you know, all of a sudden it seems like whoa, doing the podcast is like kind of a lot of work. When I have enough time, it's just great because I really enjoy doing it. But sometimes you're like, I don't know, you have to like squeeze it into literally your only like free 2 hours or whatever of the week. So that's okay. I honestly don't mind that. I just we do make an effort to make like quality episodes, because we only make 2 a month. Mm-hmm. And especially ones that are kind of like more focused around like gameplay, like tempo or sideboarding or stuff. We try to make informative for players and hope people learn something from it. So then sometimes I feel like the pressure's a little bit more on when I'm like too busy, or it feels like I could have done a bit more prep or whatever. So that's the only time where I'm like, nah, I hope that was, good enough. But still, still proud of what we do, and it's been going great so far.
Yeah, and I mean that's like a kind of a cool thing that you guys do, the 2 a month rather than the weekly. Now, obviously, this is a weekly podcast, but sometimes because you guys aren't guest focused, so I think sometimes spacing it out allows you to dive deeper and provide a little bit more, because not a lot changes, right? Sometimes, like, because I can even say, for my podcast, luckily changing up the guests every week helps me curate different topics based on, well, what they're good at or what they know about. But sometimes nothing happens in Flesh and Blood for a week, and you're like, whoa, what am I going to talk about this week? So, I think the 2 a month is a really solid format for you guys, and it really shows when you listen, and even like your most recent one, which is like a nice little marathon episode, which I've always found, and some people will disagree with me, but I've always found that the longer podcasts people tend to enjoy more, like the real hardcore people. So is that what you guys find?
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I don't know or how the metrics or analytics of that line up to make us more successful or less successful. But I enjoy longer podcasts because when I'm driving somewhere or whatever, I'm just happier if I have more content to listen to. Because our podcasts are they're 2 hours long. So we produce probably as many hours as everyone. We just have to come up with less topics, which just probably makes it easier.
Yeah, I mean that is I don't know about the success metrics either, but I do think hardcore people love the long stuff, and I think even like for those who aren't driving a lot, I think real podcast fans love like a nice long meaty conversation. Off the top of my head, like some non-Flesh and Blood podcasts, I think about Hardcore History with Dan Carlin. Puts out like 1 every year, 2 every year, and they're like a 5-hour podcast. But I mean, it's one of the most successful history podcasts. So there's something there. There is something there. Is there anything exciting on the horizon for the Attack Action podcast right now?
Yeah, we have a video dropped 2 days ago. Oh, well, then everybody already heard about it. But we had a project that we've been working on, and we're, very, very proud of this effort, and hope we, are able to do future things like this, for our fans and just to contribute to the community. Go check us out on our YouTube.
Thought it was going to be a spoiler because Isaac was on Twitter hinting at stuff, and then no. I mean, obviously, just as cool. So, at this point, now that you're listening to it, I have seen the video, and all of you hopefully will go check it out. But it is very cool.
I mean, it kind of is a spoiler. We just didn't get a spoiler, so we had to make our own.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Today, we're recording on Halloween today. So, and today, friend of the show, Capolo, put out a spoiler video, but he did not receive a spoiler. And he had it as a premiere on YouTube. And even Fabry had put him up on their website as a spoiler. And the video starts, and then he just spoils a titanium bobble with some AI art or something like that. It was very funny. I don't know if hopefully LSS thought it was funny as well, but sometimes us creators that don't get spoilers, we have to forge our own way, I guess.
Totally. Have fun anyway.
Yeah. But speaking of the spoilers, today was like the first major day of Dynasty spoilers. Us recording Monday, and probably by the time this is out, we might have seen most, if not all, the spoilers. What are your thoughts so far on what we're getting in Dynasty? The biggest thing that we've seen is the assassin class right now.
Yeah. So as far as the other classes go, I think there's some cards. I think the design of a lot of things is very cool. I think some cards, especially Sandscour Great Bow, have the potential to be fairly game changing or impactful at higher level play, which is really exciting. I do like the direction they've taken with some of those. And as far as the assassin goes, I really, since Icelander and, the living legend of Prism allowing Oldhim to come back, and now with the new assassin, I've been really kind of, I guess, heartened by the direction that LSS has been taking the game, because I was getting a little bit, I mean, I still really enjoy playing and I love playing at a casual level, but I was getting a little bit bogged down, like, just, it's been like, a year and a half of just the aggro deck is the best deck. And there's kind of like no interaction because it's like you just play 5-card hands and, win or not. And I'm oversimplifying it. There still are a lot of intricacies in the game. But when I first started playing, I really appreciated the like intricate exchanges and calculations between decks and between players. That's kind of more what I'm looking for as a game. So as they introduce more characters like, Icelander or the Assassin coming up, hopefully it'll require decks to be like a bit more flexible and able to block sometimes and, have to like change up their play patterns, and it'll reward players for being able to like, I guess just be flexible and adapt on the fly and, be able to play against the Assassin and Oldhim and like all these different decks, and it'll really reward the resilience and adaptability of decks as opposed to just like the kind of red deck wins pattern. So I'm really happy to see it. Also, it's just like oozing flavor. It's so cool.
It's the Assassin. The name, I believe it's pronounced Arachni Huntsman, which is the Assassin. 4 intellect, 40 health. It is an adult hero, which is kind of cool. We all thought maybe the new class would be introduced as a young hero first, but we are getting the adult version, and it's all about contracts, right? And that's really cool. These assassins trying to complete these contracts and stuff like that. But it is kind of neat that like you're looking at these cards, and it's like a lot of 4 attacks for like 1 or 2 or 1 or 0. And it's just like that perfect break point. And it's like you're looking across the table at the 5 player, and like you can't keep doing what you were doing. It's like you're not allowed anymore. It feels like a weird scaled down Guardian in a way, like with these crazy on hits. I'm like, and like you can't let them run rampant. So it is interesting, and I know like a lot of people like to look back at the crew meta, right? That real like grindy, not grindy, but like it was slower. You blocked, you had to, make meaningful decisions in your deck building, at least when it comes to sideboarding. And I'm hoping that this is, like you said, kind of where we're headed back towards, because, the it was a long year of aggro for sure. Is Assassin the class you thought we would get? Because they had told us that we were going to get an Assassin.
No, I thought it was just marketing hype. I thought the new class was the Emperor being like warrior wizard,
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought that they were going to kind of be like, oh yeah, that was the new class. Like in the end, we were all like kind of be let down. But I guess, if you thought that, Assassin's a good surprise.
Yeah, just releasing enough cards to support a completely new class in a supplemental set is like something they haven't done before, and I wasn't sure if they would do. So yeah, totally took me by surprise. I'm like very happy for it.
Yeah, it's very cool, and it looks like so far that they are really adding a ton of cards for the Assassin class. I wonder how it affects how much each other class is going to get in the end, but some classes, and not to rain on the Runeblade parade, but don't need that much more support. So it's fine. Maybe some 6s in Brute that banish themselves or something. That would be just great, but we'll see. What do you think of Rock, by the way? Rock is taking the world by storm. It's becoming an icon already, but it's a wild card. How do you feel about it?
I love the flavor of Rock. I love everything about it. I'm underwhelmed by the mechanics. I don't think it's very good, which like really makes me sad to say that, because I just want it to be good. But just like adding up the numbers, like if you swing fist into Rock with a tunic up, that's only like 11 damage, 1 intimidate for 3 cards, which is like, I mean, sounds good, but just not on rate compared to a lot of the modern heroes. So I think Rock should do more damage. Honestly, I think it should do like 9 damage or something. But, there may be play patterns or interactions or something that comes out that makes it actually playable. A+ as far as flavor goes, though. I think it's very cool.
Oh yeah, so cool that like you can't have a hand to attack with it, and like literally you need to have both hands like completely to hit someone with this giant rock, which is so funny.
But a lot of resources to pick it up.
Yeah, it's just like, and it kind of like does like commit to that. Like brutes are kind of dumb, but hey, what are you gonna do? It's they really love to harp on that.
Call me dumb while I'm smashing you with a rock.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, who's dumb now? So we're getting the assassin, and it's not so easy to add a ton of classes to the game without really changing up the core fundamentals of the meta, and and just realistically like adding the amount of cards and with the amount of sets that they release. What would be the next class you would like to see in Flesh and Blood?
That's interesting. Even
from like a lore, or what you would think a kind of gameplay top-down design would be like?
So in D&D, I just started playing a changeling, like a shapeshifter, and I think that would be really cool. I know we have Shiana, but she just like doesn't really work. It's like a fun card, but I think some sort of some character that I don't know, ebbs and flows and shifts their form or something that's their mechanic would be pretty fun. Like, I don't know if you transform the character or you play different cards that put you into a different mode or whatever, but there's like a lot of design space they could explore that way as far as like your character itself changing right throughout the game.
That would be neat. And, in D&D, I was like playing druids, and I was like the shape-shifting druids. Like, I always thought that was kind of cool. So I would definitely like to see some kind of shape shifting. I mean, Shiana's cool or whatever. It's more of a chase card. It's legendary, and also just a meme deck, I guess. At least because did they ban stubby hammerers in?
Oh yeah,
Blitz?
They did. I think so.
That was like a huge thing for her. I remember, and but hey, I guess you could still, I don't know, soul harvest someone who's not even that good. But
what class would you like to see? I'm curious.
Geez. Well, long time bud, long time listener, Caleb always talking about Necromancer, and I have to be honest, I think Necromancer would be really sweet. It would be a lot of fun, especially after we saw how they pulled off Dromai. I think the idea of necromancy in the game could work. It could even be like bone tokens that you have to transform into. You banish something from your graveyard, transform it into something. That sounds like a lot of fun to me, but it's probably also it's going to be very tough to pull off and still make it feel like Flesh and Blood, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's important to keep the hero, like, because you're role playing a hero in a duel, not like a arbitrary like magic army. So I do think that that's important to keep it feeling like, you're like Dromai does it because your illusions are just like weak because they're illusions, right? So they kind of are like fleeting. It's just like an attack action that like sticks around for 2 turns or whatever. Like a necromancer could have, I don't know, counters on the skeletons they summon, and they could just fall apart and go away pretty soon. Or, I don't know. Just keeping it hero centric is important.
That would be really sweet. And I also think like, I think to like Diablo and playing like a necromancer in Diablo, kind of having these really cool spells still, like where like explode corpse or whatever, that seems like a really cool, like that would be a cool way to, like, I would want to see what that Flesh and Blood card would be. And especially I would want to see what the art for that would be.
Awesome. I love it. Like when your ally gets killed, you attack react it and it explodes.
Oh yeah, that'd be so sweet. Oh my god. But yeah. So I think Necromancer would be pretty sweet. I do want to see what Cleric would be like, though. I imagine it would not be good enough, or just based on what a Cleric is, I doubt it would be a competitive deck. But I would like to see what a competitive version of Cleric would be like. It'd probably be really annoying, but
Yeah, healing.
yeah, healing or something like that. But yeah, something along that line. But I'm sure we'll get something like that for like the PvE kind of coming down the pipes. But Isaac, when you were first here, I don't think we did the fresh faves, and I want to do the fresh faves now that you are here, if you're ready for them.
I'm ready.
What is your favorite hero?
Kano.
Kano. Okay. All right. Any reason why?
Yeah, the play patterns are really interesting. Like, it's really fun for your brain every time you play as him. And you really feel like a wizard. Like, you are the most powerful, but you're also pretty fragile. So that's pretty cool.
Easily, at least for CC, easily one of the best balanced heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they kind of looked at the way he works and his health total, obviously too. But what is your favorite weapon?
Death Dealer.
Death Dealer. Or why's that?
It's just a fun with Skullbone, Crosswraps, and Azalea and Death Dealer. You have this like fun little engine where you're cycling cards, pitch stacking, kind of like choosing what you draw. It's just, I don't know. It's a really like, it's like very meditative, this little like flow thing you're doing on your turn every time. And I mean, drawing a card is just excellent, right? It's like pretty fun to draw a card for free every turn. Yeah. It's just hampered by Azalea isn't great, but
Azalea. Do you think, this is a little side, but do you think Azalea will ever have her day in her current form? Will she ever have her day in the sun?
Maybe. I would have said no before I saw Sandscour Great Bow.
That card does look awesome.
It's like with Azalea, you have to draw enough, or you have to draw an arrow every turn. So you have to have enough arrows in your deck that you're like drawing too many some turns. And it just gets really clunky without having any flexibility that way. But with Sandscour Great Bow and maybe Skullbone Crosswrapped, you're able to like sort through an extra 2 cards every turn looking for an arrow. So maybe you can run a few less arrows and just have like a little bit better balance, because if you don't see one in hand, you still have like a few chances to hit one off the top of the deck. So I'm hoping that it kind of like fixes her handicap that way. And I don't know, maybe it's high hopes, but I just really love that hero. So
well, that card is very much for Azalea, it feels like, because currently I don't think there's any reason, unless you're playing like a Death Dealer snapshot thing with Lexi, I don't see any reason not to play Voltaire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Sandscour would be even good in Lexi, but it seems like we got to figure out what aim counters are. And at this point that people are listening, they probably already know what aim counters are. But once we find that out, maybe we'll have a little bit of an idea if Azalea is going to finally get those points on the board.
We'll see. I'm going to give it a try, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'd expect no less from the Prince of Precision over there. What is your favorite equipment, Isaac?
Shock Charmers.
Whoa. Okay. Why is that?
It's just, it's pretty, like, it's pretty fun because you load an arrow with Voltaire and give it go again, right? So then they have like something coming in for like, 7 or 8 go again with a hit effect. And so if they don't block, you can just dump into Shock Charmers and like triple your hit effect. And then if they do block it out, then you can just like load another arrow and fire it. It puts your opponent in like a really hard position. And from my side of the table, that's really enjoyable. Maybe not for your opponent, but it's just it's a really, really powerful card. I mean, it does 1 additional damage, but also double your hit effects is fun.
Yeah, and also has Spell Void too?
It does.
Yeah, which is not for nothing. I mean, pretty good. What is your favorite run-of-the-mill card? Your attack actions, your instants, cards you'd find in your deck.
Beast Within.
Oh, hell yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Beast Within is awesome. I don't need to ask you why, but I'm going to ask you why.
It's been fun since it first came out, but well, first of all, the art is incredible and the whole flavor of the card is it's like the perfect brute card. But in addition to its starting utility, it's like continued to find utility throughout the evolution of brute. So that's made it like really, really, it's like stayed relevant, and you loved it when it came out and you still love it, which I think is really cool. Like, Levia can randomly discard it and then pay her blood debt by a 6 hitting the banish, or now, like, if Eastlander triggers a discard effect, you can discard Beast Within and then draw a card. There's just like, I don't know, kind of a lot of applications where it comes up and it's always really fun. And sometimes you die or sometimes you're like risking it. So it's exciting. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think this Beast Within is so much fun. And it's like, at the worst, it's a blocks 3, maybe you'd never really want to attack with it, but if you have to, you can. But it's just such an amazing card, and I'm really waiting for the day that we have some kind of effect or some kind of combo that allows me to play one Beast Within the deck and no 6s, discard it, and banish my whole deck and take all this damage or lose all this life and somehow not die and my opponent loses. That's the dream.
Nice. Yeah. Beast Within win condition.
Yeah. Self-mill. Like, see you later. I think that would be pretty sweet, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. Yeah. So that's the fresh fades, my friend. Now, I do want to talk about the World Championship of Flesh and Blood. The first World Championship of Flesh and Blood happening in San Jose this weekend, November 4th, 5th, and 6th. I thought, who better to talk about this than you, Isaac, because you'll be playing in Worlds. And you've been, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, you've been sitting on your PTI since your top 8 run at the 2021 U.S. Nationals.
I have.
Now you're finally using it. Now, you could have used it at any point, but I'm sure life got in the way of going to things like Jersey and Pro Tour Lille and like that.
Yeah, I actually, when I got the PTI, I had the thought that I was going to save it for Worlds. I mean, a Pro Tour would have been awesome, don't get me wrong, but I forget exactly why. But when both of them happened, I could have gone if I had a bunch of friends going and it was great, but it just like, they didn't really line up and I was busy with things at that time. So it didn't really, it occurred to me, but I was always kind of saving it for Worlds. I always knew there would be a Worlds, and I assumed you could redeem a PTI for it. So I'm like, fortunately, Worlds is like in my backyard. So that was very lucky, but I was always going to go and use it for that.
It was just really awesome. And now, since you got that PTI and your storied US Nats run, still one of my favorites. You're on Lexi in the Briar meta, and unfortunately, the 3-of-a-kind whiff in top 8, just daggers, but it was a great run. It was amazing. We were all rooting for you.
Thank you.
Since then, the pro scene has like really grown and like kind of almost established itself. So you're someone who was, doing well at the beginning of like the Flesh and Blood pro scene, and obviously just kind of couldn't go to things, right? Or decided to wait for Worlds. So now it's like you're the prodigal son. You're like Luke Skywalker coming back from Dagobah, right?
Awesome. I'll take it.
I have all the faith in the world of you, and it's pretty cool because like everybody's talking about, and for good reason, everybody's talking about Michael Hamilton, Pablo Pintor, Tarek Patel, all these amazing players. But how are you feeling coming into this tournament? Do you feel like you're Luke Skywalker coming back from Dagobah?
Now I do. That's a pretty pretty good feeling, actually. Now I feel really good going into Worlds, actually. I don't have the highest expectation. Like, I'm unable to I'm like naturally pretty talented at draft, but I did not get to practice draft like hardly at all. And for CC, I'm bringing a deck that I think I like a lot of matchups, but I play what I enjoy. And so I never expect to like win nationals or win worlds because I'm, just like unwilling to put in the time and the energy to just try to like break the format. If it's, like if Phi is the best deck, I'm never going to play it because I don't like it, and that's okay. But, depending on how my matchups go, I think I could do well, but I just don't have like the, I guess those expectations that somebody like Michael Hamilton or, Matt Rogers or Hayden Dale or whatever might like put on themselves to perform well, because it's not like my number one goal,
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, I do appreciate the fact that you want to play the deck that you want to play. And we're going to get to what you're playing here in a bit, but I think you speak to a lot of Flesh and Blood players in general. It's like Flesh and Blood more than any other card game, as far as I can tell, has this kind of deck loyalty. And it's basically because we fall in love with these heroes. And I think that's a good way to play the game, because coming from me, the guy just runs Levi all the time, but I think it's a great way to play the game. And even competitively, like, sure, you do want to give yourself the best chance to win, and sometimes Phi will be the best deck. But I think that's the beauty of this format, or at least CC, is there's no clear best deck. There might be a best deck for the weekend based on what people show up with, but that's sometimes hard to even predict. So I think you're very much a people's champion, and just like sticking to what you're going to have fun with. But speaking of, talked a little bit about CC, Worlds format is going to be 2 drafts, 1 on each day, 3 rounds each, 5 rounds of CC on day 1, and 5 rounds of Blitz on day 2. Then a cut to top 8 where you play CC. What were your initial thoughts upon learning that format? Because a lot of people were, it was a little bit controversial, to say the least.
Yeah, I was kind of one of those. I mean, I didn't hate it. I wasn't like pissed off or anything, but yeah, in my mind, Blitz was just like, it's just like CC, but with more variance, right? Because, there's like less turns, less life. So there's like less opportunities to kind of like make up for a bad hand or mitigate risk, or what, or getting high rolled, you just win the game instead of getting behind, or, et cetera, et cetera. So I was not in favor. I guess I'm still not in favor of it. It is kind of cool to have a different format, though, because it is a very different format. Like, different heroes are strong in Blitz than are in CC. And I haven't done much Blitz testing, but as far as I can tell, they actually did a pretty decent job with their bans as far as making the format kind of open. I could really eat my words if somebody just has something broken they're going to bring to Worlds. But, so far there's like a number of decks that are viable. So it's not like the Viserai era where you watch the calling final and there's like 3 turns total between the 2 players. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm pleasantly surprised as it stands.
Yeah, I mean, it should be interesting, and you do bring up a good point that Blitz kind of feels a little bit better than when it was announced. But I do want to talk about Uprising Draft, because at this point it has now been played like professionally or competitively at Pro Tour Lille, Road to Nats season, and multiple nationals, including the U.S. Nats. Is this a stale format to be having at Worlds, do you think?
No, I actually quite like Uprising Draft. I know a lot of people don't, for very valid reasons, I think. But like, I think Aria and Uprising are the best draft formats, kind of by far. And Aria was also played a lot. I think if you stacked them up, they are the best. Just there's some nostalgia that gets in there, maybe, for some of the old drafts. Yeah, so the only thing I don't like about Uprising is that you can really you can get really screwed by somebody downstream of you if they just force, and that can tank your draft. So I could go 0-3, through my own fault, or I could go 0-3 through just getting unlucky by who's at my table. I know that sounds like I'm just blaming other people for losses, but I think it is a component to Uprising, unfortunately. But that's kind of my only little critique. Otherwise, I think it's very nuanced. You read signals, you send signals. There's a lot of components to Uprising. Have you been enjoying it?
Yeah. I don't think I'm as down on it as a lot of people are. I still really enjoy jamming drafts at Armory and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and because it felt like for me, sure, you figured out Fire right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started to figure out Dromai, right? You're like, okay, what am I really doing with Dromai? And then for me, at least, kind of everything coming together with Icelander was, and it's taken me personally, just based on how much I got to play it. It took me this long to kind of all right, now I could confidently sit down and play all three heroes, or draft all three heroes and play them, and I enjoy that, and which is something that I didn't necessarily get with Tails, though I enjoyed Tails. But for Tails, I never really got as much of an opportunity to play with Lexi. So, and arguably she was the worst hero, maybe.
She's just the Dromai of the set, right? If there's one or two, it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
If there's too many, it's bad.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed the format, and, I think it's cool to see it at Worlds, though some people were saying they wish they would have had maybe one Uprising draft, one Tails draft. Is that something you would have liked to have seen?
Yeah, sounds great. I love Tails draft.
What about Arcane Rising?
I think I've only drafted Arcade Rising maybe I don't know, 4 or 5 times. So I don't really know how good it is in a competitive setting, but Arcane Rising is awesome because all of the generics are really applicable to the different heroes, right? The little opt things work for Kano or Azalea or Dash, in different components. You can lead the charge, Cadaverous Contraband, then dominate that arrow. There's just all these they really nailed it for the generics on that set in terms of their power level and utility. That's actually something I don't really like about Uprising. Some of the generics are they're just filler, Yeah. They're kind of garbage, but
Red Scar is good. And then I guess blue Critical Strike, but that's not really doing anything for the decks other than being a blue block 3.
No, the Sixers are good. I think Red Flex is pretty good. There's different things the one that blocks 2 damage. It's good in Icelander and blue. They do stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's not, we're not seeing Arcane Rising level of wacky things going on with the generics, though. I guess it's kind of hard to do that when you have to jam in Draconic and Ice cards, but so we mentioned Blitz a little bit, and then we also mentioned the bans. So we saw Striders get the hammer, and the format did even out quite a bit. And I remember seeing some data from the most recent skirmish season, and it was overwhelmingly Icelander, followed by Kano. So you gotta look at that and be well, Striders had to be hit here because it's just too good in such a short format. How are you feeling about Blitz right now? What are you playing, first of all, if you don't mind sharing?
I am going to play Icelander. I think she's still really good. The play pattern of being able to attack your opponent on your turn and then on their turn for, their 4 cards is pretty powerful. I don't think she's broken or overpowered or anything anymore. It's kind of I don't know. There's a ceiling on what she can do, and it's pretty predictable. A close second is Rhinar. I might play Rhinar, but I'm probably going to play Eastlander. when Storm Striders got banned, I was pissed. Because I wasn't aware that Kano had performed so well in the last skirmish. I thought it would be like Icelander and Oldhim. I didn't know that Kano was like particularly like broken or whatever. So I was just testing the 2 wizards because they were the most fun for me to play. And I was like, well, if they like hit Icelander, they like don't share any cards, right? So if they hit anything in Icelander, I can still play Kano. Yeah, right. Except the 1 card. And I was just like pretty dejected, actually. But fortunately, one of them is still like pretty playable. So I think I'm going to stick with her.
Good call. I mean, I would say that she seems like in the little bit of blitz play I've had since the ban, she does still seem like super well-rounded, and people are starting to kind of adapt that battle wizard kind of gameplay that we saw from the Michael Hamilton list into the blitz deck, which is kind of cool. And it's always like 2 front war almost, right? You're kind of like hitting them from both sides, which is really neat. Rhinar is awesome, and you got to just hope to win some die rolls and intimidate on turn 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is undeniably some of the strongest things you can do in the format, right?
Like, yeah, I mean, as you know, like playing Rhinar and CC, you're kind of trying to manufacture a point where you're both at like 12 health or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you like take damage to then intimidate them and kill them. And in Blitz, you're kind of like starting closer to that point that you're trying to get to for Rhinar's win condition. It's just like a really fun hero to play also, especially against like Eastlander is very particular about what cards she wants to block with and, and all of that. So that's pretty fun. Plus, like when you play Red Barraging Beatdown, she has to decide to play her stuff out, but then she's not going to have any cards left to block with. So it's like, are you going to present lethal? Like, can I afford to drop cards? It's just, Reiner is pretty funny, the positions he puts your opponent in.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see some Rhinar action, and it is tough though, because it is very variance. Like it's like Blitz is a very high variance format. Rhinar just increases it for yourself.
Yeah.
Which is, and your opponent, I guess. But, you got to have to decide though. I think Icelander is probably a good spot to be, but what about CC? What are you doing in CC? I think you got some special stuff brewing there.
Thanks. Just real quick, I did try Leviah in Blitz for a bit, which I really like, actually. She's pretty fun because you get Husk. You get like a ton of armor.
Yeah.
Which is like pertinent in Blitz. And I mean, just playing like Endless Maw and stuff is really powerful in Blitz. You can't get hit with Frostbites. You
kind of lose. Yeah.
If you play Endless Maw, though, it's like you've already played your turn. So if you get hit with a Frostbite, it doesn't matter.
Oh, true. Yeah. I guess I keep thinking about Oldhim hitting you with the hammer, but
yeah.
But you can also have like some crazy turns with Blood Rush Bellow in that deck, and just do as much damage. It's just they're not going to be intimidated, but sometimes it's better, right? Like, because then they have to block with all their cards, and then they don't have a turn. You set up for another intense turn. Levi is cool in Blitz, but sometimes it's just not enough.
Yeah. I thought, I still think she's pretty good, but I'm just not as good as my other couple picks.
Yeah. But CC, what are you doing there?
I'm taking Dromai.
All right. I'd like to hear it.
Because I'm a creature of habit, and I'm just kind of stubborn, I guess. Like months ago, I was like not getting a new hero from the set, except maybe Eastlander from Uprising. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I need to pick up a new hero because it'll just be a long time before any of mine get support. And so I picked up Dromai, and then I actually really, really enjoy it. It's kind of a different play pattern for my brain. I'm used to like Lexi or Kano or Rhinar or Leviah, I guess, but Dromai is pretty unique for me. I started off pretty bad, and I've been really enjoying it and like playing pretty much only that up until now.
Dromai's got like a lot of nuance. I feel like that. I think people misunderstand Dromai and they kind of sleeve it up and they're like, oh yeah, just play dragons and win or something. But it's not that. You're like the pitch stack in Dromai is so important. Like it feels like more important than Guardian at some points. And because you're setting up these crazy like finishing, touches to the deck, whether it's burn them all or even just one of the legendary dragons, which is kind of cool. But so do you feel good about Dromai at this point? Because you said at first it wasn't feeling that great, but now going into the weekend, you feel great about it.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about Dromai is the play patterns for each matchup are like fairly unique. And the difference between getting like just completely blown out or, having a favorable matchup just kind of depends on how you play, like your play patterns for that game, which I really have enjoyed like learning the matchups and kind of exploring what she's capable of depending on what you do. And it's also quite fluid. Like against Dash, like you're the aggressor until they start like getting pretty greedy with their cards and just like try to aggro you, then you block, right? Or against Oldhim or Bravo, they can try to fatigue you or they can try to aggro you, and you have to be fairly adaptable. So not only preparing and like learning the character, but also within a match, it's kind of cool how you adapt and dictate what's happening. So I've been really, really enjoying it. I like every matchup except Phi and Viserai. That doesn't mean I can't lose. Like you can lose to Briar or Oldhim, I guess I like it well enough. So it feels pretty good in that sense, especially for a hero that I like, I could just play 3 Phis and go 0-3 straight at the start of Worlds, which is kind of a risk I'm taking. I have this fear that like, I do think that Oldhim is the best deck. Oldhim, Icelander, and Phi. But I do kind of think that out of those, Oldhim is probably the best position. But I have this fear that a lot of people are going to take Phi just because it's so strong and kind of because of the ease of play.
Sure.
So I understand I am taking a big risk. Like I could go 1-2 in draft and then 0-3 in CC because I play Phis, which that matchup's not unwinnable. It's just not great. So...
yeah, and Viserai is brutal for Dromai. All those Freon hits.
Mob Skies is the best card in the game in that matchup.
Yeah, it is. It is insanely good. I mean, like you're playing like the rarity bumps up to legendary for Mob Skies in that matchup. So you're just hoping to dodge Phis and Viserais in the 5 rounds of CC, and ultimately, hopefully, avoid it in the 3 rounds of CC in top 8.
Yeah, I mean, out of the decks that I really love to play, there's not a deck that has a good matchup into all the top decks, so I'm just living with it, which is all right.
No, it's fine. You got to just, hope to beat Gem, right? That's sometimes you just got to hope the scab skin rolls are in your favor, and get there. So I do want to get to the testing team. I was honored to be included with Taylor reached out to me and he wanted me to be a part of the testing team with you and Taylor and a lot of great folks, mostly West Coast. And I guess we eventually landed on the name the Talishar 10 because there's 10 of us. How did testing go for you?
Great. I really enjoyed having you on the team and having our team put together. It's made up of a lot of players we enjoy playing with, like a lot of our friends. So that's just been a pretty great experience. It's also like, 4-hour a week minimum commitment. So it's like, I guess in those terms, like a pretty casual testing team,
Definitely.
which is just like the time commitment that all of us could make. I certainly can't test every day. And then, if we want to play additional games, you can hit up your team or you can play on Talishar against a random or whatever. So I've loved having our team together. It's been awesome.
It's been really cool. I will say for me, unfortunately, the only East Coaster, the time difference sometimes was a little rough, but I don't mind staying up and jamming games. What am I going to do? It's lay in bed and think about all my terrible mistakes in my life. I'd rather lose to you on Dromai instead. But It was a lot of fun, and obviously, I would love to be out in San Jose hanging out with all of you, but I'm going to be rooting for you from Jersey. Now, Popo Mike, friend of the show, has asked, how have you prioritized the formats when testing?
What's up, Mike? He's also a friend of our show. Great guy. Which, if you haven't checked him out, he publishes like flesh and blood themed cocktails on Twitter, and they're really good. They're very creative. He's very talented. You've probably already let everybody know that on this show, but just saying.
Well, no, it's always worth it to shout out Mike making some tasty looking cocktails, and always flesh and blood card themed, or at least that he posts. I'm sure he does other regular ones too, but he did a blue cheese washed drink for me, which was awesome. I have to learn how to do the blue cheese wash for me to make it at home, but hopefully one day.
Nice.
But back to the question, how have you prioritized testing?
Almost entirely CC. Unfortunately, there's a few of us in our testing group who are playing in Worlds, but most are playing in the calling. And it's also just more difficult to get draft pods together to test. So just because of life logistics, it's definitely, I hardly drafted at all, unfortunately. I guess aspiring to be a competitive player, I would have, put in a lot more draft practice. But CC is what I enjoy the most. It's day one of Worlds. I have, shout out to Nate. I have played some Blitz, getting a feel for it because it was like an alien format to me. So I have played some Blitz, getting a feel for it and picking my hero and stuff. But, part of it is if I do well, if I make day two and then do well in draft, my goals have already been accomplished. That doesn't mean I don't want to do well in Blitz or, I'm not looking forward to it, but it's just just for, I don't know, having fun and my goals, doing well in CC in the day one is kind of, more important, I guess. I just don't have the time or mental capacity either to try to attack two formats.
Well, here's the deal. You show up at day one, you 3-0 the draft, you do really well in CC. Then you're playing Blitz the next day. That night, you cram some Blitz, just like a little cram session, just like you're studying for an exam. And then you just smash the Blitz, top 8, win Worlds. And, hey, I don't know, we quit our jobs. And and then there's the purpose and money we were talking about.
That's foolproof. That's just what I'll do. No, unfortunately for me, I don't know how the pros do it. Maybe they're just more habituated, but I don't have the mental stamina to finish day one and then go home and test 8 more games against the prevalent decks or something. I'm pretty fried. I play pretty poorly in my last games of just a day of playing. So I don't know how they do it, but good for them.
Yeah, that is tough. I mean, I'm probably with you on that. You'd rather go grab some grub, get some sleep,
have a beer, sleep.
Yeah. So CC will be 5 rounds on the first day and ideally 3 rounds in top 8. What is your take on the meta? We mentioned a little bit, but your overall idea, and you mentioned that you think Oldhim, Icelander, Fi, best decks. Is there any decks to look out for beyond that?
Yeah, definitely. I actually think that this is probably the healthiest meta we've ever seen since Crucible, maybe, in Flesh and Blood, just because while there are some better decks, there's a number of decks like Dromai, like Dorinthia can really punish, Fi. It can also be decent into Icelander, Briar is a really strong deck. I would actually lump Briar up there with those other 3. So that's 4 top tier decks. And then, Dromai, Dorinthia, Viscerai. I'm probably forgetting something, but just the margins are a little bit narrower now. So you could bring one of those decks to Worlds if you're really proficient on it and get wins, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and even things like Reinar.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That we saw, at some of the nationals. I think the finals of Canada nationals. Something that's a little bit scary for some decks. Though how do you feel about that Reinar matchup for Dromite? Though a lot of poppers, just all the poppers in the world, but something that you can kind of grind out.
I like that matchup. It's kind of scary because I get intimidated, so I can't just like preserve my life and play how I want.
Yeah.
But I usually go down. I'm usually like losing initially and then just get some board state. And I haven't lost to a Reinar in quite a while. I think it's a pretty good matchup, actually. Just Dromai has that ability to like, get an advantage against any deck that's like a bit slower.
Sure. And like you can kind of get the incremental stuff with like even Ash Wings and stuff like that. So they're not just getting straight value when they're popping and
I've like accidentally fatigued Reinars before.
Which is
just because like
cool.
Rake makes 3 Ash Wings, and then if they pop each one, which eventually when your board state gets big enough, they like have to, or like take 8 damage or whatever. So then it, they're donating a whole card for 1 Ash Wing, and it definitely works out.
Yeah, which never feels good. Yeah, some like good decks out there. It is pretty open. I would not be surprised. I think we saw like 6 or 7 different heroes in the top 8 of US Nats. I imagine we're going to see something similar at Worlds, though obviously there's a lot of other factors. The Blitz rounds will be interesting because a lot of people's success in the tournament will be hinged on Blitz, though we'll see how that goes. And do you have any kind of question marks for you still in regards to what to expect? Is there something that you feel like you're not prepared for?
I mean, Phi, that matchup is hard. Kind of no matter how I tech for it, it's just like, I don't know. It feels like mechanically that matchup's just like pretty difficult against a really good opponent.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. It's not for like lack of trying. And for a little while, like I said, I had this big fear that it would just be all Phis at Worlds because it would just come out that Phi was by far the best deck. But as it stands, I still think it's Oldhim. And I think the Icelander matchup can go either way. So hopefully there's not too many Phis.
I mean, I hope so too, because as we saw with Assassin, these Phis can't keep getting away with it. These crazy Art of War turns. You have to block sometimes. But other than that, what are you looking forward to like the most for the whole weekend?
Just seeing everybody. It's going to be a blast. We got an Airbnb with a good amount of our friends and testing team. A couple people on the team, we didn't know if they were going to be coming, so it didn't get in the house. But, the whole party, like meeting everyone. As you know, there's a lot of people that you kind of meet or hear about or, talk to, not in the real world, like online or on Twitter or whatever. And it'll be really nice to, just say hi, hang out, get some grub. And like, the last time we did this in Vegas, it was just like after the day of the calling, we'd go home and, eat pizza and drink beer and like have wizard mirrors or whatever. And it's just that's the best memory,
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's all about the buds, as I like to say, big buds energy. Now, I do have, I guess, kind of 2 listener questions, both from Greg, our producer, aka Darth Prentice.
Sure.
Greg asks, would love to know what your goal is for the weekend and what they hope to accomplish in 2023.
My goal is to day 2 Worlds, and to accomplish in 2023. I would like to go to Nationals with Taylor. He keeps not going, but I do, owe him a trip for us to both go to Nationals and, do that whole thing, which would be pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
We'll see you there. And besides that, we have a couple things for the podcast we would like to do, maybe just with more time, which I don't know if I'll have more time, but, I guess just continue to like grow and be proud of the content we produce.
Well, it is great content. Now, the follow-up question here, speaking of the podcast and the content, who has the better mustache, Taylor or Colin?
That's a really good question. I have the best mustache. It extends across my whole face.
Yeah, this is one of those beard mustaches. Pretty cool. My vote is probably Taylor, though Colin is really close there, but Colin makes up for it in that smooth, buttery voice of his. Just my favorite. But Isaac, this has been a blast. Thank you again, as always. Glad to have you as a friend in this community and this content space, and now testing partners, and I'm hoping that get to hang out with you and all the other Battle Bros in 2023. And I do wish you the best of luck this weekend. We're all going to be rooting for you here at the Buds. So please plug all of your things, my friend.
Thanks a lot. And yeah, I really look forward to hanging out with you in person. Hopefully it'll be at a long weekend event where we can kick it and, give you a hug, buy you a beer and, actually hang out. We've been kind of missing each other at events, and it's coming.
It's coming. 2023 is our year. It's, I mean, you're looking at 2 future Pro Tour champions, world champions. We're going to get there. Levi's going to get some car that's busted, and I'm going to stick to it. Something's going on. But yeah, but thank you so much. I can't wait for it. And plug the Attack Action podcast. Anything else you want to plug? And
we make a bi-monthly podcast, the Attack Action podcast. You can find us on everything. We do have a YouTube channel. We're not primarily a YouTube channel, but our sister podcast that goes up once a month is a video cast, the Reaction Step. And, we do put up gameplay videos or stuff occasionally. I'm on Twitter at BattleBro Isaac. I'm on Discord. You can, I love to chat with people about like our favorite heroes or gameplay, or if you have any like questions or whatever. I'm like definitely always happy to, when people reach out, or if you want to just chat about whatever, just reach out.
Yeah. And you hang in the Buds Discord sometimes. And, you guys can always check that out. It is in the link tree, and you can find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, check out the Bud Rush Bellow for both Fresh and Buds and Attack Action podcast. If you listen on like iTunes or Spotify, drop us like a review or something, or like a rate, or whatever it does. It helps us become more visible for all the people out in the world. And I always like to end the podcast with food. Today, the day that we are recording is Halloween. Isaac, what is your favorite candy?
Oh, my favorite candy. Just dark chocolate. I know that's pretty boring, but yeah, just dark chocolate, or dark mint chocolate, maybe.
Ooh, okay. All right. That's a fair answer, because I'm a dark chocolate guy myself, and this might be a little controversial, but my favorite candy bar forever and always will be is Mounds.
Oh, nice.
I really enjoy dark chocolate and coconut. So I'm sure I'll be roasted for that, and I can't wait for it. So
doesn't matter. To each their own.
To each their own. That is the Buds way. Now, everybody, please enjoy Worlds and have a good week. Greg, if you're listening, you can cut this out. Hardcore people love the long stuff.